Dr. Knopfsinger, who has surgeries this morning. And with that, we will start, or I'll let everybody know about the public participation rules. So we got 2 times for public participation. Once is at the beginning of the meeting for comments regarding the agenda. And then there's one at the end of the meeting for general comments or things you would like us to know. There's a form that you can fill out. I think it's the yellow one there on the desk. And give it to Leslie, who will let us know that we have folks that would like to speak. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's all right. All right, Randy, do we have any additional agenda items?
We do not.
Leslie, do we have any public comment so far? Okay. So we'll get to the consent agenda, which is the minutes, some employee approvals, the financials, and those types of things. So any discussion? I guess, Jay, you want to talk a little bit about some of the new hires, celebrate them a little bit?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So past couple weeks, we've still been very busy trying to fill some of our open positions, and thankfully we were recently able to fill one of our current 2nd grade openings with Rebecca Dobbs. Rebecca comes to us, unfortunately not able to be here today, but Rebecca comes to us from Watervliet with 12 plus years of experience, so very excited to have her here in the district. And then we've also brought in Jenny Neeson, who is going to be the art teacher at the middle school. And Jenny comes to us from Galesburg Augusta. Again, 20 plus years of experience. Very excited to have her here in the district. We do have a couple more openings that we're still looking to fill at our middle school, high school, and then just those 2 buildings right now. So looking to wrap up interviews probably in the next week or 2 and have some people in place before the start of our kickoff.
If I could jump in as well, we do have a guest here with us today. Now, this is not in the consent grouping for approval. This is our new food service director through Chartwells, Christina Haller. So Christina comes actually back to us, right? Back in the day, you were at Mattawan and working in the food service department, and however, you're coming directly from Kalamazoo Public Schools. So it's good to have you back. Many years of experience in the food service, so we're excited to welcome Ms. Haller in, and I know that you already knew Mr. Rose, Chef Rose, David, from a past life, but you guys have had a chance to catch up last week before he took off up north, right into the sunset for retirement. But welcome, just like to welcome
Thank you.
her as a new director.
Excited about it.
Can I add, I worked with Christina when she was here before, and she was so full of energy, and going to be hard to fill David's shoes, but she was wonderful.
All right. Any other comments on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
Hearing both. Any other discussion? All those in favor of passing the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. So now we're into presentations and reports. School board report. Not a ton going on. We are trying to figure out a way to get, well, not trying to figure out. We will get some goals for us into the strategic plan. We really thank the district, everybody in the district, and the community for helping us with that strategic plan. The board has a work session after the meeting this morning to quickly go through some ideas that we had after the last meeting to understand how we fit into that strategic plan and how we can put some tasks and goals and action items in there. So we look forward to publishing that later. That's what I had for a school board report. Does anybody else have anything?
The only thing I just wanted to bring up, MASB conference, the leadership conference is October 20th to the 23rd. And that's a huge event, you know, for school board members, great opportunity to do networking, which is really hard for us to do. So moving forward with that, we'll need to get reservations in. It fills up really fast. And if you want, you know, taking classes for CEUs and all that.
Perfect. Thank you. Sherry? Anybody else have anything? All right. So move on to fiscal stewardship. So Pam?
Thank you. There's not a ton to report at this moment, but the state budget was passed, and just a couple, and you may have seen some of this information, but just a couple main points of information that our budget depends on is the per student amount, and we budgeted that at $9,000 and they passed $9,150, so that was good. It was up a little bit from what we budgeted. And then we are probably going to be up a little bit on enrollment from what we budgeted, which was 3729, and we're at like 3657, but that does not include any of the shared services students as of right this moment. So we're kind of still waiting to see what that count could be. Last year it was 124, so I'm guessing it'll be at least that again. So that all looks promising and helpful, a little higher than what we budgeted on both those points. There are additional dollars that'll be in the budget for at-risk, special ed, and school safety, but we haven't really seen those exact amounts yet. So the first payment of state aid for this year is October, so they've got a little bit of time to still play with numbers and get us our final allocations. So our audit, we're working on preparing for that. It's the second week in September. So, you know, hopefully by Labor Day, we're kind of wrapped up with everything and have all our ducks in a row and information to the auditors. And then they'll be here that second week in September to be poring over everything. So it's a little challenging this year. We switched our payroll and finance systems July 1st, and also time and attendance. So we've got a lot of learning curves going on in our office. Everything we're doing is completely different process-wise and just learning new systems. So we're working through it, but it's not been quite as simple as it has been in the past with routine tasks. So, but we're getting there, and it's a good system. We're happy with it. So I think that's really all I had, unless you have any questions.
I don't have any questions. Does the board have any questions for Pam? All right, we'll move on to curriculum and instruction.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to start by sharing a couple weeks ago, we had the opportunity to take a rather large team of administrators and teachers to the PLC at Work conference in Grand Rapids, kind of led by Solution Tree. And, you know, it was just a great opportunity to be able to actually go to a conference with a large group of people. It's the first time we've done that in a couple of years. So just being able to collaborate, being able to connect and just talk a little bit about what are some of the goals that we have as an administrative team, you know, and use some of our teacher leaders to talk about where are we at in our next step in growing our professional learning community culture. So great experience, and you know, we're going to talk more about it at our administrative retreat that we have coming up this week, and start, you know, having the conversations around what are we going to do with the learning that's taken place, and how are we going to transfer it to, you know, the conversations at the building level. So very excited for that. I also handed out, again, I know we covered this last month, but just wanted to, you know, refresh that we have a lot of professional development coming up, especially starting next week. Things like our PLC facilitator retreat, our DEI team retreat, and our new teacher orientation. So it's kind of hard to believe that we're almost a little bit less than a week away from doing all the new teacher orientation pieces. And then in 2 weeks, we have our kickoff. We'll be welcoming all of our staff back, meeting in the auditorium and kind of getting things kicked off for the year, and staff going to buildings and having building level meetings and time to kind of get things prepared for the year. And then on the 23rd and 24th of this month, very excited. We've talked a lot about capturing kids' hearts. Kind of the final details are being ironed out with bringing the facilitators here. We're going to be training just over 200 staff members throughout the district, just knowing how powerful the Capturing Kids' Hearts process and way of thinking and how we develop relationships, not just with kids, but amongst each other, is very exciting to have that be part of our district professional development plan. And then, the last day is really just an opportunity for teachers to connect with one another, to kind of iron out some details for the year as we look at how we're delivering instruction and, assessing students and how we're going to support students that, with growing needs that they have. So, and then, you can see on the back side, we have our built-in schedule. And again, we have a lot of half days that are built into the year. We've got a couple days, full days where there is no school. And, just reiterating the importance of allowing adequate time for teachers to be able to collaborate with one another and talk about teaching and learning and developing structures and building in the time during the school day to meet the individual needs of students, whether that be needing individualized intervention supports to meet grade level expectations or even extension opportunities. I know that's one of the exciting things that things like our Power Half Hour that we've been using and implementing in many of our grade levels and buildings allows opportunities to extend learning for students that need to be pushed a little bit further. So very appreciative of the board and the community to, have a schedule like this. And I've received lots of great feedback, from teachers and how appreciative they are for that time. So excited to be able to continue to have that. So.
Thank you, Jay. So is it a plan to have everybody in the auditorium on Monday, the 22nd?
Yes, so we want all staff, so all of our teachers, all of our bus drivers, building and grounds, the school board would absolutely be welcome, and we'd love to have you there, as we kind of get things kicked off for the year.
If anybody's available to go, if you haven't in the past, the energy's cool, and it's great to be there. So if you've got the opportunity to go, I would recommend going. I will try to be there. Should be back in town, but see how it goes. See. So Scott, let's go and get to you. Awesome. So we're gonna have a update from Scott on transportation, and I think in order for everybody to hear you that may be listening online, if there's anybody up listening online, the podium there with the microphone would be awesome. I know it seems super formal. Apologize for that.
Yeah, I'm very formal. Well, good morning. Just right off the top of my head, it's hard for me to believe that, I remember being at the July 7th, I think it was July, I'm pretty sure, a year ago, a year and a month ago, sitting here, and there was like a bunch of new teachers and different people, and we were here because our contract was, being given the blessing, and it's hard to believe that was that long ago already, that it flew by like that. But, this past year hasn't been without its challenges, but it's been really good. And having been my fifth school that I've worked at, and hopefully my last, I kind of have a little bit of experience of how different districts work and stuff like that. And this one has definitely been the best. And I don't say that just to, try to blow sunshine at you or whatever. I really do feel like it's really been great. It's been a good experience. Anyway, some of the things that we're celebrating. Randy always likes to start off our meetings with those types of things. And so in that spirit, we've had a bunch of new hires, which is a really good thing. As you know, that's probably our biggest challenge in transportation is keeping a full staff and trying to keep those bus cancellations as low as possible. And, 2 years ago, haven't been in this for 20 years. 2 years ago, I had never even heard of a school literally canceling, saying this bus isn't going to run today. There was always, a mechanic or a director or somebody who could substitute, and now it has become common. Fortunately, we have not, like some other neighboring districts, we have not said this route isn't going to run for a week or 2 weeks. It's just been like a day at a time. But our goal is to not have to do that at all, if we can. That's always our goal. So we've hired about 5 new people so far. We ended the year with a couple bus routes vacant from drivers, and we just finished it up by myself driving nearly every day and my mechanics and stuff. And then we had 3 folks retire. So we had 5 spots to fill. We've hired 5 people. It's going to be a little bit of a race against the clock. Some of them need some, their air brakes endorsement. We got them from some other districts that didn't have air brakes. That's getting kind of details. But anyway, we're hoping that they're ready to go by the first day. If not, it'll be shortly after that, and we'll be full staffed and up and running. So that's kind of exciting. This summer myself and both our mechanics, and nowadays you have to call them a technician, both of our technicians, we went to a conference up north, the MAPT. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. That's stands for Michigan Association of Pupil Transportation. That's something I've belonged to for the whole time I've been in transportation. It's a statewide organization that does training and support and just all kinds of stuff for school busing in Michigan. They put on a conference every year, and so both the mechanics and myself attended that. It was like a 3-day conference, and we have classes and roundtables and things like that on all things to do, updates on the new laws. We have a legislative committee, I guess, anyway, that keeps up on all the newest laws and stuff like that and keeps us all updated. The mechanics got to attend classes on all sorts of things with related to their field. So it was really, really neat and just a good time to spend together and stuff like that. As far as other updates, our fleet itself has been, we've got some old buses. We've got some old buses out there, as Bruce can tell you. And so fortunately, we ordered 2 brand new buses. As you know, we got the approval for that last year. And with the current conditions, with what's going on in the world and the supply chain, one of them is sitting at the dealership ready to be, I believe it was inspected last week by the state police motor carrier. And then the other one is supposed to be on its way from North Carolina. It's like waiting on a part or something like that. So hopefully we'll have both of those brand new buses before the start of school. And then we were able to sort of score, if you will, a couple of lease returns, buses that had been leased by another district and had very low miles, so like around 40,000 miles, which is, in today's terms, almost a brand new bus. And so, and then those are like less than half the price of a brand new one. So we were able to get 2 of those. So we're going to go into the year with 4 new units over there and retire. I think we're going to retire 3, so we'll be back up to 40 buses total. So that's kind of exciting. As far as our software project that we have going on for years, we've been using here, Mattawan has been using Versatrans. And the product that we went to is Traversa, as you know. It is also, they're both owned by the same company, Tyler Technologies, but they're two different products. And Versatrans is all on our server here, and you have to remote in if you're going to have work on it off-site and stuff like that. A little more limited. And we moved to Traversa, which is web-based, and it's just got a lot of really neat features that are very beneficial for today's world and being able to work on it in the evenings from home and different things like that. And we've been working really hard on getting all the routes had to be put into Traversa. And it was very important to get all the stops as accurate as possible. You know, some of them, as we were building it, we noticed weren't on the map, weren't right where they were supposed to be. So we've been just putting in hours like crazy trying to make sure, because as you know, we're going to have the tablets in every bus. The docks are already in there where the tablets sit and are plugged in, and that'll be just like your GPS on your phone or your car. You know, what's the name of those? I'm having a moment here. What's the name of the GPS everybody uses? No, Garmin. There you go. Garmin, sorry. Yeah, well, Ride 360, yeah, we have, my wife and I have that Life 360, so she can see everywhere I'm going. But Ride 360 is the app in Traversa. But it'll walk you right through the route. Like, so if somebody has to jump on another bus, you know, obviously the bus driver that drives the route every day won't need to look at it because, you know, they can do it in their sleep pretty much after a while. But substitute, it'll make it a lot easier to get substitute bus drivers, because that's a big intimidating thing, is to, oh geez, I'm going to have to learn, you know, 28 routes and where to stop and everything. It's kind of scary, but to a lot of people, well, if I'm used to using a GPS and having a little bit of warning, the stop is coming up and all that, but it's got to be accurate for that to work right. So we've got all, you know, I think today we're finishing up the last couple routes of verifying that everything is in there and accurate. So it's been a process, but we're getting there. We're almost there. The Ride 360 is up and running. We sent out an email beginning of last week, I believe, letting everybody know that one big change this year from what we've done in the past is, in the past we've published on the website, on the transportation page, each of the bus stops and the times, sort of just to get the year rolling so parents know about when to be out there. We're not doing that this year. Everybody logs into the Ride 360, and that will give them their bus stop location, if that has changed, and the time. And boy, as soon as we turned that on, I texted Barb and I said, let the emails begin, and they did, because you know, some of the parents couldn't quite figure out how to get in, and we've just been fielding all those emails and getting everybody on track, you know, as far as that goes. It's really a neat thing, because with this Ride 360, now let's say, for example, grandma is going to be at the house instead of mom that afternoon. The parent can give access to, and they can see who has access. So the parent can give access to somebody else if they want to. So then as grandma's waiting for the bus to arrive, she can get on there and see as well. But the parent it's safe because the parent is able to see who has access. So it's not like somebody can just log on there. They have to have the student ID and the last name. They have to go in and create an account, but they're able to do that. So that's kind of cool. So we're pretty excited about it. Kind of in a nutshell, that's basically what's going on over there. We're working like crazy, you know, right now. This is our, as I think it is probably with most people, but especially over in transportation, from about August 1st till the second week of school, when the dust kind of starts to settle, is our most stressful, crazy time. The phones start ringing a lot more and the emails start pouring in. So we're right in the middle of that right now. So anyway, is there any questions or anything else? Something I've missed? Yes, sir.
This just popped into my head, and it could be a nothing. So don't think it's something you've got to do. So I know that we use bus transportation for other events, school events, and those types of things. I'm assuming that parents will not have access to see where their children are on buses to the zoo, right? Because we won't be putting that in, right?
Yeah, that
Or,
won't be in there.
which is
Right.
fine,
It's just
right?
the
I just want to make
routes.
sure everybody knows that, right?
Yeah.
And then secondly would be like athletic busing, that they won't have
Right.
access to that either, right? So
Correct,
that's
yeah.
still standard, or, you know, status quo But for the actual bus routes to and from school, Ride 360 is the way that they can check their bus number, check where their stop is and what time their stop should be.
Right, because through the software and the GPS unit that's on the bus, it'll link the student with their bus that they're assigned to. So it won't even know if they're on an athletic event. You know, that's not put in there. That's not part of that. So those types of things, correct, that will not be. We can always see where a bus is, you know, through the GPS. Geotab is what that is, but that won't be a thing with Traversa or Ride 360.
Are there other districts that maybe we've connected with that have used this locally or wherever that knows the ins and outs, you know, learn anything from them?
Not that I'm aware of with the Ride 360.
Okay.
Just we're kind of the first one, certainly in our ISD. There are a couple. We had a similar thing when I was at Pawpaw. The Versatrans product uses an app that's similar called My Stop, and so I, you know, was familiar with that and using that. And there's a couple other districts that have gotten on with that, but we're kind of the first one with the Ride 360, so we're probably going to be the one they'll be calling. So, but there's very good support through Tyler Technologies, and their help is really, really good. So.
And reading this, first page of this, they can look and see where the bus is, i.e. winter weather. If it's running late, they can tell without calling, give or take.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little late, which is expected, but they can also find out where approximately it is at.
Yeah, it's really neat. It cuts down on phone calls. Not that we mind answering the phone, but it's quicker for them to get an answer. I mean, there's only 2 people answering the phones over there, so if both of them are on the phone and parents are calling in if a bus is running late and they're out there waiting and they think, did I miss the bus? They can just pull that up and see where the bus is. It'll give them an ETA as well as track the bus. So it's pretty neat.
Scott, you should talk a little bit about the diagnostic capabilities, I think, through the Geotab. I mean, you don't have to get too deep in it, but
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool feature, remotely accessing anything electrical on the bus.
It actually does a lot more than just tracking the bus, because I don't know how many of you know it, but every one of your vehicles has a connector under the dash that now we just call it a diagnostic connector. But if you take your car in for service, that's where they plug in to read the codes and stuff like that when you have that check engine light on. Well, buses have that also. The Geotab actually plugs into that, and then there's like a pigtail so you can still plug in a diagnostic. But it's reading the whole bus. So if the bus has a check engine light or something going on, it'll actually send an alert and send us an email. And sometimes the mechanics, you know, our lead mechanic has those sent to him as well as I have them sent to me. He'll say, oh, that has an EGR, bus 14 has an EGR code going on. And he may have, you know, something ready to go, have the laptop and all that. Before she gets back to the garage, radios and says, hey, can you pull up to the garage when you get back here? I need to check that code on the bus. And, you know, that's kind of, and it also will detect, I can't remember the exact, you know, numbers, but if the bus slows down so many miles per hour and so many, you know, point of a second, it's saying that bus was just in a collision, in other words, okay? And it'll send an alert to us. So, you know, that hopefully we never have to do this, but the bus could get in an accident and the driver could actually be unconscious and not able to radio and say, well, it'll send an alert if that bus gets in a rollover or hits something. Back, what was that, a couple weeks ago? They pulled a bus onto the lift, and just that bus kind of bouncing around on the lift, it sent me an email saying your bus may have been in a collision. And we had to go in and do some checking and find out what's going on with that, because it just really has a lot of very sensitive, you know, capability to it. That's pretty cool. Anything else?
That's great, Scott. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know you've been working really hard at trying to keep bus routes full, and that's a big, that's a big touch point for a lot of people in the district. So, bus drivers are the first people that see our kids and the last ones that see our kids at the end of the day. And I know that a lot of them make really strong connections with those bus drivers.
yeah.
So thank you for the work you're doing with your team, and we don't get down there as much as we should. So thank you for, and if you could pass along our thanks to them, we are very appreciative for everything that they
Absolutely.
do.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, we will move along to new business. First, I think Randy or Jay, substitute teacher pay rates.
Correct, and I actually think I put Pam Sturmer on there as leading the conversation, but really we've all been, three have talked about this and are in agreement with it. I had passed this information along to the board, I think a couple weeks ago. As we get closer to the year, the county normally kind of gets around a table, the county soups, and we just talk about all kinds of things. Well, this came up about, the substitute pay rate, and there was a unanimous feeling among Van Buren County superintendents to raise this, just to keep it competitive. Like many of the challenges, and Director Hitchcock alluded to, finding staff, good staff, reliable staff. It's kind of touched every department in the district, and the substitute teaching department is a critical facet of our operation. So the proposal before you is what the county had agreed to. This is what every school in Van Buren is moving to, is $125 a day. And
From what?
110. We are at 110 right now. And there's a full-time rate, there's a half-day rate, there's a short-term rate, there's a long-term rate. And so there's a formula that the business office applies. That formula will apply with the $125. We haven't quite calculated all that out. But we wanted to get this to the board as soon as possible as the year's approaching, and we just had this conversation 2 weeks ago at the county level. But we would be in support of this measure, and hopefully it'll help keep substitute teachers in Van Buren.
Now, you said Van Buren where's Kalamazoo sit on this? Do you know?
Well, I'm not sure where they're at moving into this year. I believe Portage was a bit above us last year. Still trying to track those numbers down. So I don't, something's telling me they were closer to 130. I mean, this might put us in line with them at least, to keep it competitive. But we had talked about, do we break from what Van Buren's doing and come to the board with something more, if that's where Portage and Kalamazoo are at? But in the end, we felt like it was more important and probably a little more practical to stay with Van Buren County as our anchor district. But Bruce, I don't have those numbers in front of me, especially up to date on what they're doing. I'm sure we're hoping this week to track that down, and I suppose if it's super high or they're much higher than us, we can always adjust it again.
Yeah, I think that it's important to try to stay with the ISD as we can, to show that we understand where they're at, right? Because I don't want to steal from Lawton, right? But if we are having trouble because of our proximity to Kalamazoo, Gull Lake, and Portage, I think it's important for you and Pam or whoever to keep your finger on that. And if we need to adjust that in order to make sure we're getting the right substitutes in the building for our kids, then I think that's just a unique situation. Those folks aren't going to drive to South Haven, but they'll drive to here. Right?
Our contract with EduStaff for the sub-teaching is through the ISD, so that's why we have to stay aligned with the ISD. So it's really a contract with Van Buren ISD and EduStaff, and we're like one of the signed-on districts, so that's why that goes with Van Buren. I'm sure they probably researched if they were figuring that out, a new rate, they probably researched Kalamazoo because they want to, they want all of the county schools to be competitive with that, so.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that Kalamazoo also uses EduStaff though, right? So, for them, it doesn't matter, right? They're gonna get paid.
Right, but they probably, but when they proposed the 125, I bet they checked around like Allegan and Kalamazoo just to see what the surrounding counties' rates were when they were trying to come up with one for the county, I'm sure.
So we're locked in, Pam, to the 125 because of the contract?
I believe we have to be. I don't think, do you think any differently? I think you have to stay with, because that's where our contract lies.
Right, we could definitely double check that. I'm not 100% certain we were all at the same rate last year in the county, though. So that's what I'm kind of pausing. And it's probably worth, Sherry, it's probably worth just us double checking.
Yeah, we
They
should check
probably
into
want
that.
us to be the same,
Probably, I think
but,
so.
and maybe they just, we were off in the county, and with COVID and it just, everybody's been applying a lot of grace and mercy, and we're kind of slowly getting back into normalcy, quote unquote. But we'll double check that and get the rates.
Yep.
But I would echo, and, duly noted, we are in a unique situation on the border here with Portage and Kalamazoo. And the rest of the county understands that. I mean, this kind of pops up in other areas that we've got to kind of be the in-between, and we're kind of straddling the fence, so to speak, of both counties. So we'll be very sensitive to that. I mean, at the end, we've got the interests of our district at the top. So appreciate the feedback, but this isn't locked in until the board approves it, correct?
Randy, I was just going to share in my swift research, I found that Kalamazoo is at 125.
You don't have Portage yet? You open the door.
Give me a moment.
Excellent.
All right, sounds like we need a motion to approve the substitute teacher pay increase.
I'd like to make a motion to approve that substitution increase.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Now I think we're probably on to Pam for the resolution of the school bond loan fund.
Yep, so this is the annual school bond loan fund application. All this is doing at this point in time is saying that, kind of projecting if we're going to need to borrow for our bond payments, which come up November 1st and May 1st. So we'll get those, like we evaluate in October and April at those times when the payments come due, if we're going to need to borrow. This annual application is just kind of putting us in there and saying, hey, we might need to, based on current projections and what our payments are going to be. They just like to, have that proposed amounts on the books, just, so they're aware. So this is just like standard procedure, getting it approved for the year. If we don't need to borrow, then we don't borrow. But at least our name's in there as a possibility. So that's all this one is.
Appreciate that. I know I am excited about the opportunity to not have to do this again for the second year.
So this is different, though, than the cash flow.
Oh, it's different than that one?
Yes.
Okay, never mind then.
Yep.
I'm excited about that one too.
I know. There are two different sets of borrowing. The last one we talked about was the state aid
Right.
note, and that's the cash flow operating borrowing, which we are doing this year. Didn't do it last year. The bond payments are a different set of borrowing, and those bond payments, that's paying on your debts, that we
Okay.
have. And that's the twice-a-year payments. So this one is for the debts, for our bonds that we had. So, and I think we did once last year and then didn't another time. It's helpful, I think we did in the fall, but we didn't have to in the spring because we get our tax payments in January, so then we've got money. Like before we start getting the tax payments in that goes towards the debts, then we, if we have a payment due before we start getting that cash in, then we don't have the money at the time, so, yeah. And then last year when we refunded that bond, we refunded the 2015 bond last summer. We also paid off what we had borrowed to that point with the school bond loan fund. So we kind of were starting over. It was all about the interest rates. You know, we saved money being able to do that. So we've got a very small balance right now with the school bond loan fund. And I mean, if we don't have to, if taxable values are staying ahead of the game and doing well, then we may not need to. So just some factors that play into it.
Appreciate that, Pam. Does anybody have a motion for Pam and the approval for the annual school bond loan fund application?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the annual school bond loan fund.
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the resolution, say aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, now we're on to our strategic plan update. Last month, we approved a strategic plan knowing we had some more language we would like to see in it. But we wanted the district to be able to move forward knowing that the intent of the additions were already there. We just wanted to make sure that they were clearly spelled out. So in our packet here, if you haven't had it noticed, I'll let Randy talk to it here in a second, but there's a highlighted portion we'd sent back to the committee, or asked the committee to go back and figure out how we would implement diversity and inclusion into our strategic plan. So I'll give it to Randy so you can talk through this.
Thank you. The core team did meet a couple weeks ago virtually, and appreciate their flexibility working through summer schedules. The core team was very excited and appreciative of the board's time on this and reviewing it, and I want to make sure I communicate their gratitude in this whole process and support in this whole process. So we did actually have, doesn't look like major changes here, but we had quite a bit of discussion, very good discussion at that meeting. The core team, as everybody kind of involved in this process, talked a lot about just being succinct and just making sure we've got statements that are flowing and not, cumbersome. So, I appreciate the core team's, just the seriousness. They took the board's feedback and really wanted to craft some very tight language, but, honor the feedback and that the board had given. So, and Sherry also sat on the core team, so jump in, Sherry, if I'm rambling on here, but the highlighted areas are the two pieces that the core team focused on. You can see that in the value statements, and you can see that in Target 2 under personnel. And so at this point, I'll stop talking and share if you've got anything to add to that, or if the board has any questions on the edits. But I appreciate everybody's work on this. I think we captured the essence of it. I think the board's feedback, and we can go from there.
The target goal 2A, where we changed that, under the action plan is where will be really the meat of it. I mean, this is a general statement, and, understanding that I think is very important. This added retaining a diverse qualified staff. So, we will, that's a goal. So now we're not going to skirt around it. We're going to address that in the action plan. And I thought that was, I was real happy with that. I thought that was a good way to do that, so.
Right, and Sherry, I would just add, just for those listening, and the community at large, this framework or shall is absent actionable items, and this is part of the process. Those actionable items, I think the board are going to talk about theirs in the workshop. But that will get fleshed out as we get in and the dust settles on the start of the year, and the departments and buildings will start kind of formulating those actionable items. So the board and the community can expect those updates. Probably at every board meeting here for the short future, we'll have some kind of agenda item with updates. But, you know, that's September coming into October. That's where the lion's share of those action items will happen. And again, dynamic, kind of fluid, just kind of constructing that and building that together as we go.
As I'm reviewing the strategic plan, I've got to say that I appreciate that the extra effort that you did to add those type of words into that, so I definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll ask, I think this requires another vote, right? We need to approve this new, or the revised strategic plan. So as I mentioned earlier, you know, as the regular board meeting adjourns, the school board will stick around a little bit just to talk about how we fit into the strategic plan and what actionable items we have as it pertains to the strategic plan. So that's upcoming, and that's just us, will be us bantering back and forth on how we can impact that. So with that, does anybody have a motion to adopt the revised strategic plan?
I make a motion to adopt the revised strategic plan.
I'll second it. Unless somebody else wants it. All right. Any other discussion on the strategic plan overview? All those in favor of approving the revised strategic plan, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, so now we're getting towards the end of our meeting. Do we have any other visitors, Leslie, that wanted to address the board? All right. Nope. And then Randy.
Yes.
Around to you.
Thank you, board, for all the support on all these action items. A lot happening right now. I first of all, I want to thank Director Hitchcock for coming in and presenting. And I know you noted how busy it is right now and the hours for converting to Traversa. Had an opportunity to swing down there last week and chat with Barb, your secretary, who I want to put a plug in for Barb. I know you did. She has absolutely grabbed the bull by the horns with this conversion, as have you. But she's really stepped up, and you've spoken very highly of her. Of course, Barb's been around for many years, but just appreciate her leadership, that wanting to get involved and really kind of be a contact point on that for drivers, and it's awesome. So appreciate that, and I know we're appreciative and proud of your team, especially on the safety conference you went to, or the transportation conference. I know that takes a lot of time out of family time, and I know it was a great experience. A lot of good conversation came out of that on shop organization and maintenance scheduling, and I know there's a lot of activity happening as we gear up for the year on the maintenance side. So thank you. Kudos. Couple other items. Man, there's so many things happening in the summer. I'm gonna be brief here. I want to thank David Rose. He couldn't be here today. He legitimately took off for vacation, I think Friday. I want to just say a word of thank you. I know we did at the last meeting. A couple board members chimed in, and feel free to do so again. But you know, I worked with David 2 years. Through probably some of the most challenging food service times that schools have ever seen, and this guy never missed a beat. Just always thinking about getting food in the hands of families and kids, and always willing to help out, and not a bad chef either, actually. Catered many meetings, and just to really appreciate his attitude and demeanor, and we're very proud of his work, and wish him well in this new chapter of his life. And I asked him, I said, hey, you know, board holiday gathering coming up, maybe, what are you thinking about catering? He did not jump on that right away. And I thought, good for you. He said he's going to definitely cook for his family, but he'd get back to me on that. Thank you, David. So thanks for his service. What else are we celebrating? Want to thank the community, and I know the board joins me in this, for passing the non-homestead millage. When I first started here 2 years ago, and again, it's hard to believe I'm starting my third year, Scott, but a lot of folks talked about, big districts, small town feel, kind of a very close-knit, very supportive community, and I think this is a crystallization of that. This was a very important millage. Every district needs this passed in the state. It's about 8% of our operating funds that directly impact students. And I just want to take a moment to, on behalf of the board and myself, thank the community for supporting the district through this measure. It means a lot to us, means a lot to our students and staff as well. Couple other items. We celebrated a great 5K over the weekend. I want to thank our Ed Foundation for organizing this annual event. I think it was a record number of applicants and or folks that were registered. I think it was at least 300 or over. I think they were right around $11,000 or over in funds raised. Just a great turnout, great energy, very hot and muggy. Lots of sweating happening, but everybody looked pretty happy. But want to thank MPF for their support there, not just with the 5K, but the tens of thousands of dollars that they have raised through the support of our community and businesses that funnel directly into the classroom, literally directly back into the classroom. The pipeline is clear. So appreciate their time and effort. These events are massive, and they go very smoothly, especially when NPF is involved. And I know there's a massive amount of work on the backside of that. So thank you there. Last week I had an opportunity just to update the board on some safety items. We have a new police chief, Chief Jeremy, took over for Chief Scott, who retired. And Jeremy's been on the force many years. He was the road sergeant, know him well. Know most of the team there pretty well, consistently been meeting with them, over the last couple years, but he assumed the chief role there, and we've already had a safety roundtable meeting, and he just started a few weeks ago. So I had an opportunity to sit down with Chief Mansfield, Deputy Anderson was there. We had our emergency manager, Lieutenant Kirk was there. And we're going to set up probably at a minimum quarterly meetings, what we're going to call local safety meetings. We have a county safety group that actually formed last year as well. And what we're looking to do is nest these local meetings under the county meetings. So they're all kind of lining up and there's good communication. And I want to appreciate our SRO's time, but I thought that meeting was really productive. We had a lot of action items out of that, just simple little things happening. A lot of it is just smooth communication. But at these quarterly meetings, we'll have representatives from local law enforcement, state police, sheriff's department, our police department. We'll have first responders, our fire chief, and probably just kind of a various other assortment of folks locally around our table, just talking protocols and safety and communication and things like that. So that's happening. One of the items we're looking at right out of that meeting, and this is kind of an operational item, Director Cornish and I and our fire chief, Scott, are working on this, making sure that that first responders and law enforcement have appropriate access. So there'll be key passes, brass keys, knock boxes at the entryways. It's kind of more of a fire department thing historically. But just, you would think that kind of discussion point would be kind of known and understood in districts. And when you have multiple agencies, it actually can be a little confusing. So just that piece right there, we had great conversation and a clear action plan on making sure our road deputies have access, and if not, they know where to get it quickly and efficiently. A couple other safety items. You're going to notice placards are going up. If you look outside this boardroom, it's 14. That door, 14. So that's another thing that our SRO and Director Cornish have been working on is this guy in the back, Cody, he's not relaxing this summer. A lot of safety items happening, map making, numbering doors, just making sure things are organized and it's getting communicated out. So I appreciate you, what you're doing. There's so much going on. Communication is key, so keep up the great work there. So just a safety update there. Let's see, what else? Another item on just operations and renovations happening. Carpets in the middle school media center. I'll get pictures to the board. NPF is kind of involved in that makeover, but the HVAC sounded like a helicopter taking off for many years. It is quiet. I have confirmed that. It is actually quiet, and it's amazing. And paint and carpet in there, and NPF is going to work on furniture and kind of reconfiguring that, and just it's going to just be a nice update for that building and those students. But an update on the stadium lights, that we're going to be so close down to the wire, literally by days, for that first home football game. We are still tracking, I believe, to have those lights installed. The boring under the field went off without a hitch. That's all been upgraded. So they had to bore under the field, directional bore, just to upgrade the electrical work. That is set. They were, I think, wrapping that up late last week. And we're just waiting on the lights themselves. It is still on schedule. It is going to be close, though. If we do not have those lights in or installed in time, we're hoping for a cool day. And it is light, still late into the evening. And we're just going to do our best to keep those lights on. Actually, MHSAA has something to say about the lighting at the field. So we have to be very careful when it comes to portable lighting. It'd be very difficult to get lighting that would extend high enough into the air to cast the right light. And I get why they set kind of guidelines there, but we'll keep everybody updated. Many other things going on, like transportation, that department's incredibly busy, and I can't say enough good things about building and grounds and Director Cornish and his team. Working against some employment turnover and hiring, and I have never heard anybody but any of the team members in the operations department step up and help each other out this summer, and there's just been a lot going on, so kudos to them. And I was thinking we had transportation in kind of for the gear up, and if the board would be interested, we could have Mr. Director Cornish in at the September meeting. That might be nice time, and he could kind of give a review of all of the summer work that's been done for operations and talk about some of the projects that are coming up. And, Jay and Pam and I have also talked a little bit about, now that we're kind of back into, I'm using normal very loosely, but, we're meeting in person now, and we've had more academic items in front of the board. We really want to try to work at having some type of presentation at every board meeting, and perhaps, workshop, we could talk about this, where we've got, transportation in, we've got operations in, maybe a food service update. We'll give you some time, though, to settle in, as well as principals and academics. So now that we're kind of building out the schedule, just making sure we're getting information to the board that, you want to hear and have dialogue on. But one last thing I'll close with, housekeeping. MASB, Sherry, thanks for bringing that up. Typically, central office, Leslie, myself, can coordinate registering people, booking rooms, but you are right that these conferences are filling up fast now that they're back in person. And I'm planning on attending that conference as well. I love going to that, and they normally put on a good show. You can find at least one or two, solid kinds of things. The keynotes are engaging, but just tuck that away. You can search MASB, and I'll get some information out to the board on that, but we'd be happy to assist in taking care of that registration, hotels, booking all that, and we can hang out maybe and have dinner one of those nights or something. That's all I've got right now. Be happy to entertain questions. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Randy? All right. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn our regular session before we go into our work session. So an adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We're, take a 10-minute break, so let's be back here at 20 to 8.
Okay.
Or 20 to 9, whatever time it is. Yeah, 20 to 9.
20.
8:40. All right, thanks.